Frozen Tundra Football League.
Welcome back to all my friends and fellow FTFLers. Do not adjust the dial. What you are seeing is correct. I am poolside here in the sunny state of Arizona. Not, might I add, a foreign country. I know some of you probably believe that. It isn't. Boy, oh boy, am I happy to be doing the show today. It is week 11 is done. It is over. We have 3 weeks left. Just three left in the regular season. And I'm not entirely sure anybody is actually out yet. Sure, Saltmarsh is about as close to out as it gets. No, but I think he still might have a chance. I haven't done all the math yet. Maybe by the end of the show we'll be a little bit closer to an answer on that. What I do have an answer on this is, if the question was, what is the better division? Without a shadow of a doubt, it is the North, because for the not first, not second, not third, but fourth time this season, the North has prevailed in the North versus South Bowl. This week it was 4-1. Sid being the lonely and only from the South who got himself a win. Now, if the playoffs were today, I remember earlier this season the South was all like, "Woo, look at us, 3-4-2 teams. Oh, look at you, North. All of you are 2-3. Boo." That's right. If the playoffs were today, 4 teams from the North to just 2 teams from the South would be going in. Now, what's making all of this super interesting down the stretch? Injuries. My goodness gracious. I've got them. Peter's got them. Jeff's got them. I mean, you looking up and down the rosters, everyone is dealing with injuries, trying to field a full team. And oh, by the way, Thursday games are also, in particular this week with Thanksgiving, not 1, not 2, but 3 games. My head's about to explode. Thankfully, though, I do have the advantage, and we'll share why a little bit later in the show. One team who is looking for any sort of advantage as we head down the stretch, Matt. My goodness gracious. It was almost September ago when you won your last game. You have lost 5 in a row. You were 4-2. You were one of the 3 teams that sat atop of the division, but no! Now 5 weeks later, you have lost 5 in a row. You are 4-6. 4-6. 4-7. 4-7. That sounds about right. 4-7. Now, Matt, though, the best part about the last 5 weeks probably was what happened earlier this week. I know, Matt, it's not often you find yourself on the chat board, but I feel that when you do, you often leave your mark, because your comment this week, I'm still giggling and laughing about it. Someone took the Hunter Henry bait. Now, that someone is sitting right next to me. He's here for the FTFL play. Eric, welcome to the show for the very first time. I am so excited to have you, so much so that I've brought a beverage for you.
Well, thank you, Brett. You know, it was only 97 episodes, but finally you got a real host to show, to share the show with you. So thank you.
It has been, yes, this is episode 97. 97. Let that sink in. In just a couple short weeks, we're going to celebrate 100. Today we'll celebrate 97. Cheers, buddy. The Hunter Henry bait, would you like to elaborate? What was going through your mind? Why was Hunter Henry your starting tight end this week?
The Hunter Henry bait, wow. You know, for a guy who was the 3rd ranked tight end in fantasy football based on points going into last week.
You're talking Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry. Okay. Seems a little strange to say, why did you play Hunter Henry? He was the 3rd best tight end.
He
had 7 touchdowns on the season. He had the most by 2 of any tight end in the league, and he's now the 7th highest ranked receiver
So the mere fact that he was available is what you're saying doesn't make any sense.
It didn't make much sense.
I will tell you.
And quite honestly, I already had 2 tight ends, but you know what? I was going to pick up the third because I didn't want anyone else to get it.
Well, that's why, Andy and George Kittle is kind of what's going on with that. You know, it's funny. I actually had a conversation with my brother this week, and we talked about Hunter Henry, and I said he's probably one of the most reliable tight ends out there. Until he isn't, right?
He always scores. Until
he wasn't. That's right. We'll get into the Hunter Henry bait and what Hunter Henry didn't do later, but it's on to the games. And first off, the leader of the South Division, Peter and the Valhalla Vandals, coming into 7-3. Taking Team Smoke and Mirrors, according to Eric, taking on a Liquid Schwartz. What would you call Liquid Schwartz? What's that team?
Just junk.
Coming in at 6-4. Peter, if you've been paying attention, I'm sure you have. Now, I know you spent a little time in Florida, and I didn't quite pick this up. My co-host here, Eric, did. 2 of the last 3 weeks, you've had the lowest score in the league.
In the 40s.
In the 40s. This week, 41.5 points. Supposedly the best team in the league. Now, I know you can't quite claim that because I beat you not once but twice. This week, pathetic. Adam Swart, 93 points to Peter's 41.5. Drew Swart, Mike Williams leads the way. Mr. Boom and Bust himself, 18.5. This was his first double-digit score in a month and a half. Month and a half. Mike Williams has struggled. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills continue to struggle. He got 18 points, which is nothing to sneeze at, but that team is struggling. Boswell, 16. Adam, I can't stand the look of his face, stealing with 14. Now, one person that was not in Adam Swart's lineup, which, it was the turd that stuck. Ramondre Stevenson was nowhere to be seen this week. It doesn't matter because, of course, Swart scored 93 when your opponent only scores 41.5. Or was it 47.5?
41.
No, I'm saying if your opponent only scores 47.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
If you're Peter, Tyreek Hill leads away 10.5. Jamar Chase, 9.5. Now, in Jamar Chase's first 5 games, 79.5 points. He has cooled off a little bit over the last 5, 58 total in that stretch. Now, Patrick Mahomes, 1 week after the big comeback, right? Everything's back on track. Kelsey's dancing. He's like, I got my mojo back. 4 points. 4 points. I didn't write that. I think Brady had 18 on the bench.
It's that proverbial which quarterback you're going to play.
If you got 2, you don't have 1, right? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, that's how it goes.
That's Andy's dilemma, too, and we'll get into his game.
Or you could just not have 1, in my case. Russell, stupid
That's
face
what
Wilson.
you get for trusting Russell, stupid face Wilson. In Peter's starting lineup, Ernest Johnson. I get what the thought was there. Yeah, right. Ouch, indeed, because it was 0 points. I get what the thought was there. You're thinking, well, let's go ahead and do this because typically Cleveland likes to run 2 running backs. However, 0 points in a week where you could have used a few more.
That's dud-worthy.
Is there trouble in Valhalla? I guess we're going to watch that play out going forward. Now, up next is the winner of 4 straight games in Mixing Cocktails, coming in at 6-4, taking on Make America Great Again at 6-4 in one of the marquee matchups of the week. Boy, this was a absolute ass whip fest. Andy, 87.5. 87.5 is not a terrible score. Not a great, but not terrible. But when you score the highest point total in the league to date this season at 135, you're probably going to win that game. Sid had 135, Andy 87.5. The 4-game win streak is no more. Now, if you remember, Andy won 2, lost 4, he won 4. Is this now an aberration, or is the beginning?
I think it's just another streak.
I
think lose 4 to finish out the year.
Lose 4 to finish out the year. You will find yourself at 6 and 8. You will not make the playoffs at 6 and 8. I can tell you that much. If you're Sid leading the way, Austin Eckler, 33 points, which for a running back is an astronomical week. However, not the best score by a running back this week. We'll get into that in a little bit. Justin Stupid Face Jefferson. I can't call him Stupid Face, can I?
You can call him whatever you want.
Yeah, right. Justin, I was up against an inferior corner, Jefferson. When Jare comes back, we'll see. We'll see if your numbers look the same, Double J.
I could put up 33 points on Kevin King, let's be honest.
Yeah, right. Kirk Cousins, 24 points. Chris Godwin, 13. Justin Tucker, 12. If you're Andy, leading the way with his leg was Nick Folk, 16 points. Christian McCaffrey, 15.5. Mike Evans, 13. Travis, Kelsey, and Debo Samuel, 12.5 apiece. Dak Prescott, 4 points. Now, you didn't have a choice this week with the quarterbacks. Of course, Lamar didn't play. However, boy, oh boy, it's, again, up and down and up and kind of like Markster's Chubb. But 4 points from Dak this week is not enough. CeeDee Lamb, 1.5. Now, CeeDee Lamb is not, Eric was telling me,
He's out.
Not going to play this week. Ooh. Andy, could this be? Now, I don't play Andy. I'm trying to remember what I did against Andy already. I don't play him down the stretch because now he's part of the 6-5 club with Markster and I, and in the jumbled mess. So you are
So
not.
which streak were you a part of? Is what you're wondering.
I mean, we can go back and check the notes, but we ain't have time for that kind of stuff. Sid moves to 7-4, tied for the best record in the FTFL. Andy falls to 6-5 and is part of the jumbled mess. Now, if the playoffs were today, Andy would be in, but. You look at this and go, that receiving situation. Now, Andy will tell you he's got lots of receivers. He's got lots of quarterbacks. Will he play the right one? I guess that remains to be seen. On to game number 3 of the week. Hulkamaniacs at 5-5, taking on. Who did I take on this week, Eric?
It was a long game. It
was the Pack Attack coming in a game where there was a lot on the line.
There was.
I mean, both of us at 5-5. I kind of figured we got to go 3-1 down the stretch to guarantee a playoff spot. 2-2 is you're going to be in the conversation, but I don't want to leave it to chance. Now, at the very end of last week's episode, Eric, I told you, I looked at the camera and said, you are going to join the Kiss My Ass Club. So now is that moment. I want Eric to just pucker up. No, huh?
No.
Well, figuratively, he did, because an ass whooping was had. 104 points to Eric's 47.5. 47.5.
Yeah, it was rough.
Sure was. Aaron Rodgers with his best game of the season, 34 points in a losing effort, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Darnell off the waiver wire Mooney had himself a game, 20.5 points.
Come on.
Dalvin Cook with his best point total of the season, 15.5. The last couple weeks, back-to-back doubles. Is this something we're starting to see now?
And why did Darrell Mooney catch passes? Oh, that's right. Fields got put on the bench. Andy Dalton was throwing touchdowns in Chicago. Just ridiculous.
You smell like fried chicken. You smell that? That smells delicious. I don't know who's cooking some chicken out here, but it smells absolutely outstanding. Keenan Allen, 10.5 for me. The Titans defense, a whopping 0.
Nice.
And you're like, yeah, that happens from time to time. But it should not have happened at home against the Houston Texans. You couldn't even get a sack against the Houston Texans. Thankfully, it didn't matter. I'd really be steamed up about that. For you, Eric, Myles Gaskin, 13.5 points. Tampa Bay defense, 12 points.
Yeah.
6 players were under 5 points.
It was rough.
Now, you, of course,
and Russell Wilson, let's be honest. I mean, the guy's got 8 points in 2 weeks.
He is struggling. Is it the finger, or is it just he done now? Is he done?
I think he's done now.
Wow, that was
Stick
quick.
a fork in him.
Stick a fork in Russ. He's done. Now, earlier we discussed how you jumped all over the Hunter Henry bait.
Yes, I did.
Okay, now, as I sat here on Saturday night with you before the game, there was a lot of, you were trying to figure out what you were going to do, how you were going to make it work, and who were you maybe going to play instead of picking up Hunter Henry?
Well, I already had Hunter Henry.
Well, you picked him up early in the week.
I already had him earlier.
Sorry, you hemmed and hawed. That's what
But
it was.
I needed a receiver because all of my receivers were either hurt or had COVID. So
all right.
I needed to pick up a receiver.
Or you could have just done what?
Well, I could have not played Hunter Henry, but of course I did.
That you could have also flexed a tight end, right?
Well, I still know because I needed 2 tight ends. I still played 3 running backs against you.
But I'm just saying, had you flexed your tight end, had you flexed Ertz?
Well, I could have flexed Ertz, but, you know.
I mean, it wouldn't have mattered, but what did Ertz get? Do you remember?
Yeah, he had 20.
He had 20 points. Hunter Henry, what did Hunter Henry get this week?
I had 1.
1 point.
Yeah. Those 2 catches.
That smells not only like
amazing.
fried chicken, but it smells like the decent. To me, you already told me why you picked up Hunter Henry, and I am in full agreement. It's just an off week for Hunter Henry. However, the off week cost you your 5 and 6. I move on to 6 and 5.
And even with 20 points, Hunter Henry still has more points on the year than Zach Ertz. So just let that sink in.
Okay, so what you're saying is you're not going to spit that bait out.
No,
Okay.
I'm all in, and
Hook,
you know what?
line, and sinker.
You know what? I might go with the Hunter Henry bait again this week.
Okay,
We'll see.
well,
We'll
all right.
see.
All right, so quick break here before we get into the last couple games. Some of you may be aware, some of you may not. I'm going to go ahead and put a picture up here on the screen, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. I'm in Arizona. Pretty clear, right? I mean, the pool, the palm trees in the background. I'm in short sleeves. I'm definitely not in Minnesota. And now some of you, of course, if you're watching, all of you knew this. And last week during the show, I shared with you something I've been kind of keeping under wraps. Not that I'm ashamed, but I'm just more like, what the hell? I emptied that box of Vikings paraphernalia that I truly believe the Viking fans want me to get rid of because they just are kind of done.
Who wouldn't?
Well, right. But as you're looking at this picture on the screen here, yep, there it is, the picture. It is a Vikings blanket.
It's devastating.
On my garage with not one but two Viking pennants. Now, the funny part about this is that didn't go up on my garage.
Two more than championships.
You know what that is? Absolutely a very good point, Eric. I think that's something we should not forget here in this argument. But you know when that blanket and those two pennants went up? Oh, after I was gone. Yeah. After I was gone. It went up either Saturday night or early Sunday morning. Now, I'm sure the thought was, oh, ha ha, hee hee, funny. He's not here to do anything. Really? That's the big tough Vikings fan? That's the look at me Vikings fan, the one with the bravado, with the machismo, with the cojones to sneak around someone's house when they're not even there. That's the big tough Vikings fan. Now, I don't know who did it. What I do know is this, Eric. Jeff Markser was in town over the weekend. I got pictures. He was back in Deer Grove Heights. Now,
he does like to break in.
Well, sure. That's what I'm going with this. If there is anyone who has a track record of breaking and entering and or just trespassing, it is Jeff Markser. Now, I don't know that it was Jeff Markser, but it was definitely a coward. Only a coward comes to someone's house and puts something on it when they know there's not going to be any sort of retribution, any sort of risk involved. A coward. That's what Vikings fans are. You're all cowards. You wait till I leave to go to Arizona. Oh, then we strike? Please. I'm glad I wasn't in Minnesota this week. Let me tell you why. Not because I miss the cold. I can't wait to get back for the cold weather.
I don't know. I'm liking this.
Yeah, I miss winter. But what I didn't need to hear was just the constant chatter about, oh, this is it. We're back. We've done it. We've turned the corner. This is going to be our season finally. You know how many times I've heard that, Eric?
How many games back are they still?
Jesus, 2.5. 2.5. You know how many times I've heard, like, this is it, this is our season? They are the most...
Many decades?
Decades. They are the most delirious fan base out there. Like, either they don't pay attention, they have a short-term memory, I don't know what it is. But on top of all that, they're cowards. At some point, we're going to get to the bottom of this Vikings saga here, all this stuff that's being done to me, sent to me, put on my house... and there will be retribution.
I think there should be a confrontation on this show.
You want them to reveal themselves
I think
show.
I think the reveal should be on the show.
But now what we're doing is we're assuming that I don't think that the person that I don't know that the person that's been sending all the stuff is associated with this person. However, the timing can't be ignored. Cowards, all of you. Oh, speaking of such, look whose game is next. Mana. 4-time Lucky Pants, belt stealing, breaking and entering, and were you trespassing this past weekend champ, Mana, coming in at 5-5, taking on the loser of 4 in a row, the Architect at 4-6, make it 5, 108.5 to 83. Again, 83, not a terrible score, but 5 games in a row. Now, was Hunter Henry on the Architect before? Is that where he was playing prior?
You know, and I'm not even sure.
Why he chose to bring that up? Okay.
That
if you're Markser, boy oh boy, Jonathan Taylor. That trade, in some ways, continues to look like it's just, I mean, the fruit that you're reaping from this is plentiful. However, we'll find out if it really is when we cover the next game. Cam Newton off the waiver wire into the starting lineup, 22 points. He's back. Also
what
off the
Jalen Hurts.
That was Jeff's big guy. That's why he made the trade for Jameis Winston. Jake Elliott off the waiver wire, 20 points.
And, of course.
And Jeff's Chubb back in action this week, 15 points. Didn't really get beaten up too badly. We'll see if Jeff can get his Chubb back in the game for a second straight week.
You know, it might not have been Jeff that put that blanket and those pennants on your garage. He might have been too busy with his Chubb.
You might just trying to work it back into game shape.
He might have been.
I suppose he probably got a little bit of warming it up and just massaging it, getting it ready for the game. You're right, so I think we should probably take that into account. On Jeff's starting lineup, Buffalo's defense, 0 points against his running back. That was a smart play. And is it Brian Edwards? Is that the guy from Las Vegas? he continues to get logging minutes in the league. I don't know why.
Right.
He got a 0. Doesn't matter. Jeff won. Devontae Adams for Matt has his second best game of the year, 21.5 points. Terry McLaurin. I talk about Mike Williams being boom or bust. Terry McLaurin is a boom or bust guy as well. 14.5. By the way, he scores 6 or fewer or scores 14 or more. That's the point spread. There's nothing between 6 and 14 for Terry McLaurin. Derek Carr, 10 points. Elijah and DJ Moore combined for 34.5 points on Matt's bench. Still wouldn't have mattered. Lots more on the bench. Matt falls to 4-7. Jeff is now 6-5. And if the playoffs were today, Jeff, like in my basement, would be in. Lastly, the pre-toilet bowl. This was the game that's kind of decide who is in the pole position, if you will. Yeah, right? For the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 draft. The Linkowitz coming in at 3-7, taking on the Radioactive Monkeys at 3-7. Linkowitz blew the door, smooth off Adam Saltmarsh, 126.5 to 70.5. If you're Linkowitz, that trade, you continue to reap the rewards from. Justin Herbert, 34. Joe Mixon, in what might be his best fantasy season to date, he is coming on hot, 20 points. DeAndre, the most underrated running back in all of fantasy football, Swift, 19.5. James Conner, the touchdown juggernaut, 14.5. Harrison Butker, 10. Woo! I mean, just all over the place. Now, again, we've been keeping track on the show. I don't have a piece of paper. I really feel like last year the James Robinson thing, and wait, we'll get there. It's coming. Yeah. Coming. The trade, Herbert, Conner, and Hopkins for Winston, Taylor, and Fuller. Jonathan Taylor did everything he could this week to finally put Jeff in the W column. 43.5 points wasn't enough.
Still wasn't enough.
John's players combined 48.5. John is 7-0 on this trade. 7-0. Now minus the second round pick. I know, Jeff, the second round pick, and arguably a better keeper in Jonathan Taylor. We hear it. Yes, that's all fine. If you're Adam Saltmarsh, New England's defense. That's right. The defense, 28 points. My goodness gracious. When your defense scores 28 points and you lose, is that a decent nomination? What is that?
That's
the defense. Dude, right? The defense scores that many. That's like the bonus. If your defense scores 5-6 points a week, you're probably that's okay.
But we should probably talk about his running back.
We're getting there. Yeah. Stephon Diggs, 14. Mac Jones got to start 10 points. 4 players at 1.5 points or under. It's tough to go under 1.5 points, but he had 4 players that was 1.5 or under on his bench in a comeback performance.
Yeah.
None other than Clyde Edwards-Helaire makes his way back off of the IR, 11 points. Now, funny
and is still on the bench.
Not in the starting lineup. Instead, Samaje Perine.
What is he ever a starting running back in fantasy football? Has he ever been a starting running back in fantasy football?
I mean, he was this last week.
Until this year?
He was this last week.
Until this year.
Yeah, he had 1.5 points.
Oh.
1.5 points.
That's almost Salty's average.
Well, we've been keeping track, pretty close track of that. This week, Salty's running backs combined for another 7.5 points. Mind you, Jonathan Taylor.
So no cake?
No cake, sorry. I know we didn't hit the decade mark. The Big Ten.
For cake.
76 points on the year for Salty's running backs in the starting role. Last week, 21 other running backs had Saltmarsh's starting running backs total or higher. This week it stays the same, 21. But you pointed out, Jonathan Taylor, 43.5 points. In 1 week, had more than half of Saltmarsh's 11-week running back total.
Derrick Henry's been hurt for a few weeks now.
He sure has.
But he still has twice as many points on the season than Salty's running backs.
Hold up. Now, in the time that Derrick Henry's been hurt, have you won yet?
Yes.
You've got 3 weeks, right? Are you 1-2?
I am 1-2.
1-2. Okay, yeah. Since that fateful moment. All right, let's do the stud, the dud, the decent update, and we'll get out of here. Start of the week. This one's easy. Jonathan Taylor, 43.5 points. By the way, the 8th best running back performance of all
I'll give
time.
it for Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
Go Bucky.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, no doubt. 8th best running back performance of all time in a winning effort. Thankfully, it wasn't in a losing effort. Dud of the week, Patrick Mahomes, 4 points. Your team.
Russell Wilson.
Stupid face
My
Wilson.
whole team, yeah.
Jeff's wide receivers, granted they won, but they combined for how many? 1.5 points. That seemed to be a real common theme this week. 1.5
Salty's
points.
4 guys at 1.5 points?
Well, that was yes. We could talk about that
Salty's
too.
season?
The decent update of the week, I got to go with it was the Hunter Henry bait.
Come on. Come on.
You played Hunter Henry. You could have played Ertz. You still would have lost, but you would have been more respectable. Swartz, decent update. Ramondre Stevenson. You were such a big fan of his. You were so high on him, and then you chose not to play him. Come on. You still won, but, I mean, you, in this week, you have to openly admit he was the turd you flung to the wall that stuck. You're the turd flinger. You always will be in my book, and I'm coming for you 3 weeks to go. Next week, Adam Swart, you will join the Kiss My Ass Club. And week 12 is not a real great week for matchups. However, Hulkamaniacs coming in at 6-5, taking on Mana, 4-time Lucky Pants, belt stealing, breaking and entering, vandalizing Champ Mana at 6-5 as well.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but go Hulkamaniacs.
Yeah!
Go Hulkamaniacs.
Woo!
That's
Go
right.
Hulk.
That's right.
Pack Attack at 5-6, taking on Make America Great Again at 7-4, and then this gets to the weird games. Liquid Schwartz at 7-4, taking on Team Linkowitz at 4-7. Now, if Linkowitz wins this game, he solidly now becomes an active participant. Yeah, I mean, with 2 to go, he would be at least part of the equation. Valhalla Vandals 7-4, taking on the Architect at 4-7. And last but not least, the Mixin' Cocktails at 6-5, taking on the Radioactive Monkeys at 3-8.
Is that called a bye week?
Wow. I mean, Andy needs it, right? He
Well,
lost.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or this is just the start of another streak.
you lose the salt
You
marsh.
lose one, okay. You lose
Right,
two.
just back to back.
You're
You
back
lose
to
3 in
streaks.
a row. Hold on. You lose 3 in a row. And we call that a streak.
Okay.
That's your Major League. You remember that Major League?
I do remember.
Yeah, come on. We call it a streak. And it's a big gravelly voice. All right. Well, that about does it here from Arizona. We hope that you all, wherever you are enjoying yourself this week. We hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And one last time, Eric, thanks for joining me on the show today. Cheers from Arizona. And... that is delicious.
Nice.
Until next week. Wow. I've had a couple. Until next week. Peace. Yeah, I know. Big win, right? Huge win. Huge win. Listen, I'm still waiting on the email. I sent that thing like 5 or 6 weeks ago. I mean, at some point, I'm just going to have to just come out with it. I don't know if we can wait any longer, but I'm not in first yet, but I'm feeling pretty good about this. Yeah, me too. All right, man. Well, yeah, I'll be back. I think Saturday, and we'll see you then. All right, peace out.